Well, hello, and welcome to this guide on what birds to watch out for in the Oceania Expansion for Wingspan. In this video, we are looking at the exciting new yellow birds. For newer viewers, I am the Harbinger. I enjoy strategy and board games, and I have over 300 played games of Wingspan, and I feel that I have a pretty good intuition of what cards are good and when. And I hope that this video will help you in your first few games of Oceania. First, I will be talking about the birds in general, and then I will rate them after these systems. A tier is a great bird that offers a lot of value, and I will be happy to pick it up from the bird tray and play it. B tier is a good bird that offers good value, and I'm happy to play it if I already have it in hand. C tier is an okay bird that has somewhat lacking value, but could see play when it aligns with the bonus cards and round end goals. F tier are trap birds. They require too much investment to pay off, and more often than not you would have been better off by not playing them and activating a habitat instead. The first birds we look at is this trio: the goldfinch, the grey-headed mannequin, and the magpie lark. They are all birds that let you play another bird at the end of the game. It is important to note that the game end powers activate after the end of round 4, after nectar is discarded and round goals are tallied up. So you will not get to activate the teal powers, and you will not be able to pay for the birds with nectar, so you would need to plan ahead. These birds are great as they grant you an extra turn at the end of the game where you can play an additional bird, basically paying back their initial cost of spending an action to play them, making their actual cost only the food cost they cost. They are also very cheap, so they are great birds to pick up at the starting hand and get you up to the crucial second column for the double resources. That is a trait I value highly, but the trade-off is of course that there is an opportunity cost of taking up space on the board that could have been used by a different bird, and they make future birds in that habitat cost more eggs. For the two smaller birds, I value them at C tier, as they are very playable when they align with the bonus cards and the round end goals, and I'm happy to play them at the start of the game if I need cheap birds to get to the second column. The magpie lark is worth a bit more points and has less strict food cost, so it's valued higher at B tier, but the only downside is that you have to plan for having at least 2 eggs in the forest at game end. Next up, we have 4 egg-laying birds that gives you a point at the end of the game for every correct nest type you have with spare room. These are the orange-footed scrub fowl, the male fowl, the pied cormorant, and the red-backered fairy wren. They're all situational birds that could give great points if you already have or already plan to play 4 to 5 birds of the correct nest type, where some of the nest types are easier to pick up in the future than others, as we see of the graphic. This gives a slight edge to the 2 fowls, which again is offset by the fact that they are worth very few points in of themselves. I consider them all to be C tier birds. You would be happy to play them in circumstances where you already know that you will get some value out of them, but they are not birds you will build your game around. You will probably be happy to play them when the amount of eggs you get from them, in addition to the feather scores, are around 7 to 6 points, unless you have even better plays to do, of course. Next up, we have 2 more egg layers, and it's the black swan and the splendid fairy wren. These both lay eggs dependent on the bird's wingspan, again giving you points at the end of the game. They immediately look like they would be in a quite of similar value, but there are some nuances below the surface. The fairy wren has better access to birds to lay eggs on, but about every third bird being below 30 centimeters, while only every 5th bird has above 100 centimeters wingspan. What is worth noting is that above 100 centimeters wingspan birds, they are on average worth a lot more points than the below 30 centimeter wingspan birds, which means that in a vacuum you are more likely to want to play them over the game anyway, so that gives the black swan an edge over the fairy wren. I rate the black swan a B tier. It is worth 6 points in itself, and it will most likely give a few eggs onto other birds as well. I will be happy to play it, but I will not rush to play it early. The fairy wren I rate a C tier bird. Playing around it is definitely a trap, but if you already have 6 or 7 birds fitting the criteria, it starts becoming a solid option. Last of the egg-laying birds, we have the spotless crake and the Pacific black duck. Both are cards that want you to invest heavily in the wetlands. The crake will give you up to 5 points based on how many birds you have in the wetlands with excess egg space, and the duck will give you a 50% bonus on eggs in the wetlands, up to 6, limited by how much egg space are left on the duck. Initially, they might seem like the previous 6 egg-laying birds, that they are situationally good, but I actually think that these are F-tier trap cards. For them to work, you have to invest too heavily into the wetlands, where you would have 4 other birds. That would happen from time to time, but then you are having either of these as the 5th card. Spending an action playing a 1-point bird that costs you food and 2 eggs to gain 5 eggs in the future is a net 4 point and is underwhelming at the later stages in the game. For the duck, you spend an action playing it, and for every time you lay eggs, you get some free extra eggs in the wetlands at the end of the game. However, the action you spend on playing the duck could have been used to just lay eggs instead, considering the ducks also cost 2 eggs if you are at the stages where you have enough egg space in the wetlands to profit from it. We see that playing the duck, we are already 1.5 egg laying action behind, meaning that just to break even, you would have to fill it up entirely. My advice is therefore to stay away from these two. Now for something different, we have the Australian Raven, the Crested Pigeon, and the Australian Magpie. The unifying factor for these 3 is that they allow you to spend excess resources and convert them to points. The Raven and Pigeon use food that otherwise would have just been used for tiebreakers, while the Magpie converts egg from the other birds in the habitat and the column to more points via caching more food than the eggs were worth. Caching food from your supply at the end of the game is a pretty undervalued game mechanic in my opinion. If you have the opportunity to play a blank 7-point bird for 2 eggs and 5 food for a free action after the end of the game, you would be happy to do it. And that is basically the effect of the Australian Raven. You get to exchange 5 of any food for 5 more points without having to spend eggs. I think the Raven is a solid A-tier endgame bomb if you have the excess food. The Crested Pigeon is cheap to play and could help you get up the columns quick, but getting the full value of the 8 seeds is unrealistic to get without investing too much time into it. I would play it in the early game if I had it on hand, but I would not go out of my way to pick it up, so I place it in B tier. The Magpie is hard to get to pay out in its maximum value, but you could probably easily get at least 4 eggs converted to caged food, so that is an additional 4 points. It is playable when it fits, but remember you are forcing yourself to spend some actions to lay eggs in the future to make it work, so I put it at C tier. Finally, we have the Cockapoo and the Australian Pipit. Firstly, the Pipit has the same problems as the spotless crake. For it to work, you need to know that you are filling up the grasslands, and then it is at best an 8-pointer that you spend an action and 2 eggs on playing. I do rate it slightly higher than the crake, as it is potentially worth 6 points after egg costs. Before considering round end goals and bonus cards, I do see a situation where you would indeed be happy to play this bird rather than activating a habitat. So I rate it as a C tier. The Cockapoo, on the other hand, is a great B tier bird. Now you get to draw 4 bonus cards and pick the best out of them. Another reason I liked this bird, just besides saying its name, is the excitement of drawing the bonus cards at the end of the game to see if you are lucking out or not. If you played a good amount of birds, you're likely to pick up 6 to 8 points on that bonus card, but there could also be more. On the other side, you could also have a really bad luck and only draw duds, which feels sad, especially if you only needed a few more points to change the game outcome. That is it for my tier list on the new game and the birds coming out with Wingspan Oceania. What do you think about my rankings? Do you agree or disagree with my suggestions? Let me know in the comments below, and like and subscribe if you want to let me know that you enjoyed this content. It helps me out a lot. Thank you. This was Harbinger. I will see you again soon. Harbinger out.